You see that pylon thing, that statue that's in the park? I think I'm gonna build that in my city. It's actually pretty similar to something that's on the workshop already, and yeah, I think it'd be a pretty cool addition. I guess if you're watching this, then I am building it right now.
G'day guys, Tills20 here and welcome back to Sichuan Province. Today we're going to be continuing work around this interchange that I built about a month ago. We've been focusing on this area quite a bit because it was a real point of interest for me, and it's just been a really good starting point to figure out the detail work and figuring out how to build in Sichuan Province and work within this style. Plus, I just wanted to finish off this area as well because I didn't really want to just leave it unfinished. I really want to detail it and make it look super pretty, especially for the cinematics, which you're probably getting a whole bunch of cinematics around this area because I just really love taking footage of it. So look forwards to when it's finally finished and all detailed up. So today we're going to be building a park, and I'll talk a bit about that in a sec. But first up, I'm just doing a bit of pre-recording. So this commentary and footage is about 3 weeks old. I'm doing some recording in preparation for my trip to Germany. If you are watching this video right now, then I am at PDXCon. Who knows, I might even be standing right next to you as I hit go to public on this video. So that'll be pretty exciting if I'm hanging out with you guys. And next week, I will also be heading back to Chongqing to do some more recording and get some more vlogging done. And yeah, if you guys have any suggestions, then hit me up in the comments below or follow me on Twitter. I'll be doing some live updates as I'm roaming around the city trying to get as much footage as possible. I do have a bit of an idea of what I want to get and what I want to do. There's so many improvements I want to already make to do with the footage, like for instance, hold the camera stiller and not make the audio so loud when I record it because there's a bit of clipping going on. Yeah, so much I want to improve, but yeah, I'll be over there next week, which I'm super excited about. So today we're going to be working on this park. Now this park is inspired by the park where I set my drone off and was basically just trying to get footage of around this area and mostly of this interchange. But yeah, I guess when I got home, I was looking through all the footage and I had a bit of footage from the park, and I was thinking, you know what, I'm gonna build the park for sure. Like, it's actually quite an interesting area, and I think it'd make a good addition to this spot. So in particular, I really liked this statue that I had here, or this pylon. I still don't really know what it was. If you do know what this is, then let me know. I mean, it might be a memorial, or it might be you know, something else than just a statue, but either way, I thought some sort of sculpture that was around this interchange would really complete the picture and really make it a little bit more eye candy, which honestly it does. So as you can tell, I don't end up placing down the same type, even though there is a very similar one on the Steam workshop. Instead, I ended up using this sculpture that I found on the workshop. These are actually from a Chinese collection of sculptures. So this is actually apparently a Chinese sculpture. So maybe it is, you know, real life city. I don't really know, but it still looks pretty cool. I thought it was a good fit for this area. I really like how windy it is, and I think it kind of represents the interchange quite a bit because it is quite a windy and all over the place interchange. So I decided to go with this one, and again, trying to do things quite differently to the actual city that I'm building from. Don't want to just copy it completely, and really just trying to take inspiration, not try to make a recreation. So what I've done is I've dragged a road just so that there's a bit of access to this park, but most people are going to be accessing this park through a network of underground paths that I don't actually include me building in this footage. You might see it in the cinematics at the end, but there are actually a whole bunch of footpaths coming into this park. And I've decided to do that because the real life park that I'm modeling it off is basically accessible via all these pathways that lead underneath the highway, and it's just like a crazy network of paths going underneath this highway. And I honestly didn't know how I was going to get to this park in the first place, because I knew that this road was really hard to cross. So when I found this pathway leading underneath the highway, I thought, okay, great, I'll just wander down there, that'll be totally fine. But I guess the area that this is in, it's not a particularly nice area. It's there's not a lot of people, and it's quite industrial, and this network of paths underneath this highway, it's meant to be some kind of mall, but it was all abandoned. There was only like 2 or 3 shops opened when I was down there. It was so dark, and it was wet, and there's pipes. It really felt like some sort of like steampunk, futuresque place that I was in, and it was quite terrifying. It was terrifying because I had my drone on me, or my camera gear. I just had pretty much everything on me, and and I had just no idea where I was going. I was probably underneath these highways for about, 10 minutes, and I was just like freaking out the whole time. But of course, I was totally fine. It was nothing to panic about, but it was it was quite a sketchy experience. Anyway, that's why I've decided to build a whole bunch of roads, little footpaths going underneath the highway to get to this park. And this park, by the way, doesn't have a name, so if you have a name suggestion for this park, then let me know. You guys have been coming up with some really great suggestions for names of places. Please keep them coming, because as I build, I really just assume that I want names for these places, and names of the districts, or even more ideas. So keep them coming, because they're really great. And on the topic of names, we have named the city. We named it last episode, I just forgot to mention it. But the name has come in from Sibo Wang, who has suggested this really great name, and I'm going to tell you the name in a second, but I'm just going to tell you the meaning behind it, because that is the whole reason why I've chosen it. I've chosen this name because I think the meaning and the reference to what we are building, I think, makes a lot of sense. Whereas I actually don't really know how to pronounce it. And he's even said in this message that he's written me, he said it's hard to pronounce, and if you mispronounce it, it has similar meaning, but it's not quite the same. So for all you Mandarin speakers out there, here's the name on screen. If you know how to pronounce that, awesome, then that's what I'm trying to say. But I'm going to give it a go, and I think you pronounce it Zhejiang or Zhejiang. I'm really not sure, but that's my best shot. But basically, the meaning behind it is, so the first part of that word is it means dark ochre, or he says, to be more exact, the color of milk-added chocolate bar, which I think is pretty spot on considering the color of the water. I know that was my first impression. I was like, well, that's the river from Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, so I think that fits really nicely. And then the other part of the word, Xiang, is it means when 2 rivers merge, or when 2 rivers meet, or something like that. Again, I think that fits really nicely, and you guys actually came up with a whole bunch of other ideas, which I really loved. I think I could have gone with a whole bunch of them, because they were all really great names, all really cool meanings for mountain city, and historical city, and just some really, really cool names. So thanks, keep them coming though, because we do have a lot of districts to name and parks to name, and if you ever see me build something, then hit me up with some name suggestions, and I'll just be adding it as I go. Please leave the English translation so I can type it into the district names or the park names for Cities Skylines, because I don't have the Mandarin version, and we'll just keep naming places, because I think it's pretty important. What I've been doing on screen, and I've been mostly focusing on trying to build this auditorium. Now, this is an outdoor auditorium that I was pretty much sitting in flying my drone. I didn't really take too much notice of it until I came home and started looking at the footage. I was like, oh, that's really cool, I might build that. And I think the thing that I liked about it is this platform that I was standing on. The first part where I was flying my drone, I noticed that I was on this raised level above the rest of the park, and underneath it were all these shop fronts, and I guess they're probably more specializing in foods and probably souvenirs and things like that. Pretty sure it was all closed when I was there. I'm not sure if it was planning on being open or whether this was like one of those places that was sort of like built in preparation for a lot of people to visit, but then I don't know, not very many people visited. There's a lot of places like that in China where there's like places built and you kind of go, where is, like, this is like massive, there's like a lot of infrastructure here, but I don't see anyone here. I think that could be the case for this park. I'm not really sure, but regardless, it was really pretty. I really liked it, and there were a whole bunch of people walking around just going for strolls and being quite curious about what I was up to because I was just flying around. But yeah, I thought I'd build it because I thought it was quite pretty. And I thought I would lead this to the car park, which will be on the other end. And on the other end of this raised platform is where you can access the theater. You can sit on these this area, which is another area that I was sitting on and flying around. And there's also stairs leading down. So it's kind of like you can either use it as a pathway to get from the car park really easily, or you can use it to get to the auditorium. It's really just like this multi-purpose platform, and you also get a pretty nice view from up there too, so I thought that was a nice touch. But working with some really tricky angles in terms of trying to get the decals to work, because decals generally like it if you stick with a very straightforward grid-like pattern, where I don't generally do that, unfortunately. Unfortunately for me, I think it does look quite good, but yeah, I tend to go on multiple angles and then try to get all these squares and rectangles to line up, and they don't, and then I get frustrated, and yeah, that's generally how I play the game. But I do think it makes for some more realistic areas. But yeah, I'm just going to be trying to hide some of those weird cracks by placing down some planters and also getting some trees up there too. I don't really have any trees that you can raise up and down. I'm pretty sure there are some trees like prop trees that you can place, but at the moment I just have to use the taller trees. Most of the palm trees that have just quite tall extended bases, and then you can use them to sort of create smaller trees at the top. That's generally how I do it, but it's quite tricky. I'm using a lot of ploppable surface to create this, and just using decals to just create that tile look. A couple of different types of stairs. I've downloaded a couple of different types. Basically, one of them is you can actually see the physical stairs in there, and I think the triangle count's much higher. And then I've got this other type of stair, which is just a flat surface, but it's got the lines, and yeah, it doesn't look quite as nice, but it definitely helps out the frames. So you have to keep that in mind if you're going to use that or not. Also, I wanted to create a lot of different access points. I didn't want to just make it so that you can only access it via this one area of seating. So decided to create another staircase behind, which I really love the way that thing looks. I end up dragging a couple of invisible pathways. I don't do it on camera, I don't think, but I do drag some pathways just so we can see people using the raised section. I don't think you really see people doing it because they don't really have much of an incentive to get up there, to be honest, but who knows, maybe we can encourage people to get up there if we plop down some like people generators or park generators or something like that. Really trying to go quite heavy with the foliage in certain areas, so using a lot of vines in certain spots, and also trying to make sure that we've got lots of places to have gardens and different areas for bush and stuff, because really Chongqing is just like full of this sort of foliage, and I really don't want to neglect that. Trying to make as much use for it as possible. At the moment of building this mall isn't functional, it's purely just there for looks, so I couldn't really figure out a way of making it functional. So if you have any ideas, then let me know, but at the moment I think it's fine just the way it is, with just being purely for aesthetics and not for functionality. To create the shops underneath though, I just I think I used some sort of retaining wall, or might be something to to do with construction, but basically just used some of them to make it look like the shop fronts were closed up, which is actually how it looked in real life, so I thought that was fine. Also creating a couple of different, trying to make it a bit more walkable, because this, basically this raised area makes it a little bit harder to cross the park, so I thought might have to create a couple of entrances, and I really liked the way that thing turned out. I think I do create another one at some point. Something that I'm doing quite a bit of in this episode, I don't know if you've noticed me do it, but basically Find It, so the mod Find It that I'm using quite a lot, has this feature where you can create tags for your for different assets. And I did this in Bordertown too, and I'm using it quite a lot in Sichuan Province. And basically, every time I see an asset that is really that really fits the scene or the theme for, like, it might be very Chinese, or it might be like a particular type of style that I think, I really want to use a lot of this, then I will give it a tag. I'll just give it like a quick tag, Sich, which is just like a nice, easy thing to remember when you're trying to build something fast. And then when I'm building an area in Sichuan Province in the city, then I can I can just like quickly type in the word Sich in Find It, and then all the assets that I have given that tag, then they start popping up, which is really useful when you're like stuck for areas and you're thinking, have I done everything I could possibly put down in this area? Or if you're trying to find a building, you're thinking, I can't remember what building I liked, and quite often I'll download buildings from the workshop and then I'll completely forget about them when I'm in game. Whereas if I am scrolling past something, building something in particular, and then I go, I remember this asset, I can't believe I haven't used that in my park, or I can't believe I haven't used that very often, then you can just give it a quick tag, and next time you're building something, you can just quickly search for it and find it, and it's, then you remember where it is every time. It's really helpful. It's really, really useful, especially for those people who detail in like a particular style, like a city style or like a country style. Then you can just give a quick tagline, and then you can remember it really nice and easy, and you won't worry about forgetting about those really important assets that get lost amongst your thousands of assets, which is basically what happens to me every single time. So finally finishing up this area, kind of like a quick build, but I think the results is really quite huge. And what I wanted to finish up doing was just making those decals just fit into the area a little bit better, because they were a little bit strange where they were. And I also decided to place down a playground. These playgrounds they're amazing. I love the look of these. They're just a really great asset that are so realistic. I see these everywhere, and pretty much this exact model is in China in so many different locations. So been meaning to use this asset for a really long time. So happy that I've got the series to finally do that in. But guys, that is pretty much it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. If you've enjoyed it, then let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see anything in particular, then just leave a comment below. I'll be in China in the next week, so if you want to follow my adventures there and give me any suggestions of places to visit, just let me know in the comments below, or even better, follow me on Twitter, because that's where I'll be doing all my regular posts. But guys, that is it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.